The following program is intended for mature audiences.
What do you say we have a rock and roll party?
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
It looks like they're playing desperate for once.
Who?
Which is the Capitals.
Oh, they're...
Let's just act like we're down 3-1 all the time and see what happens.
Seriously. Like, that's not a bad idea.
So, I really want to say, if they win this series, they're going to punch their ticket all the way. Maybe not win the cup, but at least get to the final. But I don't know if I want to say that.
Tampa dispatched Boston relatively easily. Yeah, so I wouldn't exactly say that they're gonna.
I know, but I'm so badly want to like jump on the ridiculous, Blues, Caps, underdog bandwagon. But I've learned my lesson.
Oh well, there goes that lead.
Okay, see, that didn't take long. Didn't take long at all.
The annual Capitals. Why do we even bother gala?
Right. All I had to do, I didn't even really say it. I just kind of like toyed around with the idea of saying it, and look what happened.
No. Sidney Crosby needs to remind you that you're not allowed to have nice things, Capitals. It's okay.
Yeah, I just didn't even really go there. Just kind of hinted at it, and well, here we are.
Yeah.
In cases like this, I just like to remember that scene in Rogue One where Darth Vader is just slowly but methodically making his way through like that tunnel, like just dispatching Rebel Alliance soldiers. Like sometimes you just can't stop the inevitable.
Yeah, I don't know if they could get past Tampa even if they win this. I mean, what was that? What was it? What did they win that series? 4-1, 4-2?
4-1.
4-1.
Yeah,
and
that was
Boston absolutely dominated the first game, and then Tampa just took care of them for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they had some close games in there for sure, but Tampa's just better. And I think as much as I too, I was on that bandwagon before the playoffs. But if just knowing the history, like if the Caps can get through this, and even if whether they win tonight or win in 7, like the Capitals will probably be mentally spent, I would think. Like, oh, we finally did it. Okay. And then they have to go against Tampa, who's just as good,
Let me ask you a question. Do you really think if the Capitals lose tonight, they're going to beat the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions in a Game 7?
They could.
Look, the way this goes is the Capitals will lose this game in overtime, and then Washington will win 2-0. Pittsburgh will win 2-0 in Game 7.
Oh, I know. I had Bruce Boudreau too. I know what it's like to be up 3-2 in the series, lose on the road, and then lose at home. Like that's what happens. I get it, but
unless you're Vegas,
time, but here's the thing. Well, yeah, we'll get to them.
By the way, I will be playing the role of the Vegas fan tonight on the show, just so people know.
You're dead to me, Gregory.
Not necessarily a Vegas fan, I guess, but more like a Vegas.
We're losing our track already.
Okay. All right, focus. Pittsburgh's inevitable victory.
Right, but what I was going to say is, even though the Capitals are in the situation that they've been in 100 times, the same position the Ducks were in themselves, I as a Ducks fan know you still have that optimism, even if it sounds stupid that you're like, no, we're not going to have the same thing that's happened the last 4 times happened. And even now it's like, oh, the Capitals were up 1-0. They're doing it. And then Pittsburgh ties it. Now here we go.
Why do you think, that optimism is there every year. That's why I want to jump on the Capitals bandwagon, why I've fought, since the start of the show, every time the Blues got in the playoffs, I'm like, this is the time they're really going to do it. And of course you have that optimism, but at some point you just have to say, you know what? I'm tired of getting my ass kicked. But if they win tonight, if the Caps win tonight, I'll be right there going,
look,
they can do
see,
this.
This is why I'm so cynical about these things, because I'm a Leafs fan. I get my ass kicked every single goddamn year. I don't have enough fucks to get my ass kicked every year for teams that I'm not a fan of. So it's like Washington, St. Louis. I don't care about you. I've got my own pathetic squad of losers to fret over. I don't need to deal with your bullshit.
Well, but Mike, here's the comparison for you too. The last 2 times the Leafs have been in the playoffs. Well, I guess 2 out of the last 3 times now they've lost to Boston, right?
Yes, they have.
But what if you play Boston again next year and lose, and then play Boston the year after and lose, and play Boston again and lose, and play Boston again and lose? You would feel just like these poor Caps fans, just be like, I am sick and fucking tired of this black and gold team on the other side of the ice.
Oh, I absolutely understand it. I get it 100%. And I want, and yes, like if you ask me, who do I want to see win? I want to see Washington win, but I'm just too cynical. I've been broken. No, they're not allowed. That's not how it goes.
I see. Zach has still got the kind of like the pure optimism. Mike is completely broken. I'm kind of in the middle where I want to go with the Caps, but I'm leery of it. It's like I really want to do this, but I don't think I'm going to.
My thought process for the optimism really is just it's got to change at some point,
but it doesn't. That's the point.
I know, but it's gotta.
How many years? Going back historically, how many years did Montreal knock Boston out of the playoffs? It went for forever. I'm talking back in the 70s and 80s and up through there. But it went worse than this ever. It was ridiculous.
It didn't just stop in the 80s. I remember Montreal as an 8th seed knocking off the first seed Bruins in the early 2000s, and it was just Montreal just beat Boston again. I guess that's just how it goes. Because
actually, a buddy of mine that actually got me into hockey is a huge Bruins fan, and I remember him talking about it. We're going way back to the early 80s, where he was like, "We just can't get past Montreal," and it went on forever. So, yeah, it doesn't have to change necessarily. I think Boston finally beat them in what? I don't remember. It wasn't that long ago, though.
2011, it was the year they went to the Cup, I think.
But it took a really, we're talking decades, long time for them to finally break through. Mm-hmm. So, I'm just saying, it can go on forever, I think. And like I said before with the Caps, I don't care what happens, and I don't care if they have completely new personnel. The media won't let them forget what has happened to them all these other times. So it's always going to be in the back of their minds, whether it's very prevalent at the front of things or if it's just a little bit there. It's always there, that failure thing that hangs over them. So, they're playing themselves. They're playing the Pens. They're playing the media. They're playing everybody. And I don't know. It just makes it very tough. So it can go on. But I see where you're coming from, Zach. You think eventually they gotta get the break their way. You would think it would happen eventually, but
if it happens, it happens. If Pittsburgh does what they do, I think I gotta think if you're a Caps fan at this point, if Pittsburgh wins, you're just numb to it.
Yeah.
If they win, it's just well.
I really would like to talk to a Bruins fan that went through all of that and see at what point you just go, oh well. I would have to think it would get. The closest experience I had to this was the Browns and the Broncos in the 80s, where it was can't. It can't happen again, but it did. And it was only 3 times. And you just get so frustrated, and it's you develop this hatred of that other team that you can't. It's not even rational. I just despise the Denver Broncos. If you brought their name up, I would turn red and a vein would pop out of my forehead. I just fucking hated them. I can't imagine what it must be like to have it happen. We'll say Montreal and Boston, or with the Caps. To have it go on forever like this, I don't even know what that would feel like. It must be awful.
Because I think they've played 10 playoff series against each other. Mm-hmm. And the Capitals won the second one. I think Pittsburgh's won 7 or 8 in a row.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, which is, incredible.
Well, the nice thing about at least the Blue Jackets, by getting beat in the first round this year, didn't have to play Pittsburgh again. I don't know. It's just got to be. being a Caps fan, it's just got to be really, really tough.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, I know I'm annoyed by Nashville. The Ducks have played Nashville 3 times overall, lost every time, and they played the last 2 years before this year. And I was like, I just don't want to play this fucking team again. And that's only after a couple times.
Yeah.
But the thing with that too is, like, now that the way things are situated, at least the Ducks and Predators are in opposite divisions. So the earliest they could meet was in the conference final. If you're the Caps,
unless it's a wild card situation.
Yeah. But generally speaking. Whereas the Capitals and Penguins know that they are destined to do this dance forever.
Because we have to use this stupid playoff system because, again, blood pact with the Red Wings.
Well, I was thinking too, like fan bases, but like when the Cubs finally broke through and made the World Series, it had to be sweeter that they beat the Cardinals along the way. It was kind of the same kind of thing with that.
I'm sure Bill Murray was elated.
I'm trying to think of like other rivalries. I can't really come up with any at the top of my head. The only one that just sticks out to me was the Boston-Montreal thing went on for what seemed like a very, very, very long time, where Boston just couldn't get past them.
You have Colts-Patriots, but they didn't really play each other that many times, honestly. At least in the playoffs. They played each other a lot in the regular season because they were always division winners. But I think they only played each other 4-ish times during the playoffs. Yeah,
and when the Colts finally got through, it was great because not only did they beat the Patriots, but they did it by coming back against the Patriots, and it was just a really great win. It's I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it must be like to be a Caps fan because first off, I don't know the full history. I don't know how long this has been going on. It's at least 6 years.
It's been going on since the 80s. Actually,
I was going to say because it's been at least for the length of the time we've been doing this show. It's been happening.
It predates Crosby and Ovechkin easily.
Does it predate Mario Lemieux and?
I don't think it predates Mario Lemieux
and Peter Bondra and Joey Juneau and all those guys.
It predates those two, yeah, but yeah, it's come into prominence over the last few years because of Ovechkin and Crosby and because they played more often in recent years. But yeah, just I don't know. I mean, eventually they'll break through.
Well, you would think.
But at the very least, in the Eastern Conference, I thank you, Tampa, for eliminating Boston so that Brad Marchand will stop fucking licking people.
Yeah, let's unpack that for a moment because that
you didn't see this, Greg. So in the first round,
are you unfamiliar?
In the first round, Brad Marchand, noted pest, Corey Perry of the Eastern Conference, if you will. When they were playing the Leafs, he got up in Leo Komarov's face and was like, trying to step up to him because he's a tiny little guy, trying to puff out his chest and be all big. But he got where their heads are like nuzzled up against each other and just licked the side of this dude's face.
Okay, that's weird, right?
Yeah, it's like, and everyone's like, well, what the fuck are you doing, Brad Marchand, you weirdo?
Maybe that was the point.
And then we think, okay, it's a one-time incident. He's stupid. Somebody told him not to do it. We move on. Then in game 4 against the Bruins, Ryan, he goes low and delivers a low hit to Ryan Callahan, coming up the boards. They go down the other end of the ice and Callahan kind of shoves them and they both get in each other's faces. And then Brad Marchand licks him like on his top lip and up his nose.
Oh, wow.
He leans in and licks him.
And then when Callahan's like, what the fuck? He kind of like, and just like face washes him. All Marchand's doing is laughing. So the NHL has to make a formal thing where they formally told him, stop doing this.
Well, I got to say, if you want to get in somebody's head, that's really a pretty effective way of doing it.
Yeah, I was reading an article and they were going on about how the NHL has no formal rule against licking people because why would you ever need to have that?
Yeah, who would think you would need it?
It's called unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, but you would never think you would need to sit down and say, hey, you can't lick people. I mean, it just seems to be a given, right? Like you kind of just make that basic assumption going in. I don't know. Can I just say, too, really quick, how awesome it is that Snoop Dogg is a hockey fan?
I mean, he's not, but...
He's not?
He wears hockey jerseys occasionally, and because of that, it's like, hey, he'll show up at a game once a moon.
That's pretty good though for Snoop. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he showed up during the Ducks Cup run. Wore a jersey to the final.
Well, anyway, as far as Marchand licking people, no, I was not aware of that, and it's probably good that someone stepped in and said you can't do that.
It's hilarious because, of course, I followed the Leafs series, and then in Tampa, they play the Lightning next. So, like, those are the two series I'm watching the most of just through sheer availability. And it's like, why do I keep seeing Brad Marchand lick people? Like, what? This is weird.
Did anyone ask him about it?
Well, no. Well, yeah. And he doesn't say anything about it, of course.
Okay. I mean, you would think that he would at least try to explain himself. I don't know. That's really weird.
Yeah. But it did come with some good memes after the fact. Him with the Hannibal Lecter mask. A Tampa fan showed up to Game 5 with a dog collar around his neck. Or, those the big cones.
Yeah.
The dog cones.
Yeah,
right.
I saw a really raunchy sign that some Lightning fan brought that said, of course, Lightning had number 9 Tyler Johnson.
Yeah.
Don't lick my Johnson.
Oh, let's see what else. When they were eliminated, there was a picture of they put Brad Marchand's face on Ralphie from A Christmas Story with his tongue stuck to the light pole.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
Well, do you see what the Montreal Canadiens tweeted out?
Yes.
Balls
are known to cause disease when licking.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Golf balls are not sanitary. But Tampa, man. Tampa looks good.
Yeah, they do.
Tampa does look good. I'm interested to see how the I'm interested to see how the East is going to play out because I don't know. I'm kind of confounded by Pittsburgh this year in the playoffs, and Washington. I just never know. But
we're going to probably.
Pittsburgh looked. Yes.
I was just going to say there's. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying that Pittsburgh looked absolutely dominant round 1, and they have looked shaky at times against Washington, but I can't tell. Like if it's Pittsburgh Tampa, I think it's a toss up. If it's Pittsburgh Washington, if it's Tampa Washington, I'm going Tampa. But that's my take. I was thinking about this. There's a pretty reasonably good chance that we're going to have a Sun Belt final here of sorts.
Yeah.
You got Nashville still involved, Tampa still involved. I guess Pittsburgh and Washington, not really, but
Winnipeg.
And Winnipeg, but it's there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Winnipeg, they're looking damn good.
I like those guys, man. I like watching them play.
Winnipeg. I like them to close it out tonight. I really do. Coming home it's different for Washington trying to close it out on the road in Pittsburgh where they've had so many wins. It's another thing for Winnipeg to come home to the whiteout and do it on a balmy spring day in Winnipeg.
What's it like, 12?
It's 27.
Oh.
Celsius.
Really? That's like 100, isn't it?
It's pretty warm. Yeah.
No, what is that, Mike? 27, like about 80? Like 75, somewhere in there?
Around that, the 70s, 80s.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I still haven't got my Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion figured out, but it's around there.
The only one I know is that minus 40 is the same on both scales. That's it. That's the best I can do you.
When I saw what the weather report was going to be, I saw it on Twitter, so I quote tweeted and said, "Oh, the Jets have brought spring to Winnipeg."
Yeah, but it's not spring, it's summer, and it'll be over by the end of the week. So
But I like Winnipeg. But here's an interesting thought. 10 years ago, if I told either of you that the Western Conference Final would be Winnipeg and Vegas, what do you think your reaction would have been 10 years ago in 2008?
Well, were the Jets still in Winnipeg in 2008? No. And there was no in Vegas. I mean, I think we would have probably said the same thing in 2008 about Vegas getting an expansion team that we said, and right up until the day they got the expansion team, that it's a bad idea.
Yeah. And Winnipeg was still Atlanta.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a strange look overall. If you're a casual fan that doesn't really pay attention to the stuff, and you're looking at the conference standings or the conference final schedule, and you're like, Winnipeg, Vegas, huh?
Look, I'm just saying right now that given the teams still alive in the West, Winnipeg is team justice.
Oh, 100%. Because screw Nashville and screw Vegas and screw the whole thing. Go Jets.
Well, I think the Jets got to close it out tonight because I mean, Game 7, you're back in Nashville. I don't know.
Oh, sure,
yeah,
sure. I think they got to close it out tonight, but I think they will. And if they don't, well, then this podcast will age terribly.
But it's interesting though in that series. Like, I'm feeling confident about the Jets' chances because when the Jets lose in this series, it's only by like a goal. But when they win big. So they're stepping up to Nashville.
Yeah, I think they could. I think I watched I watched a couple games in this series. I just like watching Winnipeg play. I like their style. I like their cool team. And they're Winnipeg. Come on, you got to root for them, right? How can you not?
The question is, say Winnipeg can get past Nashville. How do you like their chances against the Knights of
the Vegas Golden Knights of Nevada?
Oh, yes. I think the Jets.
I think the Jets. Well, here's the thing: if you ask me from a logical sports standpoint, the Jets probably kick the shit out of them. But there's nothing logical about this Vegas team at all. Nothing.
They can probably. I feel the most confident about the Jets playing Vegas because they're a very physical team. I think they could choke the life out of them. I don't know. That's just my.
Like I said, under normal circumstances, I'd say it's probably Winnipeg because and not only that, but Marc-Andre Fleury can't keep this up forever, can he?
Yeah, I mean he can.
Well, okay.
And really, like Fleury.
I mean, it's not like he's like standing on his head or anything. He's been good, but yeah,
it's definitely still a team effort for them. But it's funny because people said, "Oh, well, the Kings are the physical team that can beat them." Well, they beat the Kings. Well, the Sharks are a speedy team that can beat them. Well, they beat the Sharks.
Nope.
But Vegas, I think Winnipeg is or even Nashville, really. They're both the combination of skill, speed, and size and depth too, which is again, as was being argued back and forth in the thread, the key to Vegas' success has been like the depth that they have. So I think both those teams could stand up to them and beat them. I really like this. Isn't just like hopeful thinking. Like matchups wise, that's what should happen.
Look. Vegas has one ace in their sleeve against Winnipeg if they end up playing the Jets. That's Dustin Byfuglien in Vegas with all-you-can-eat buffets.
Ace up their sleeve in Vegas. That was well done, Mike. Somebody had to point that out. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll be here all night. Try the veal.
I'm telling you, man, I don't know. I was thinking about this before we started tonight. How'd this team even get here? If you remember, at the beginning of when the whole process started, we're like, okay, everybody was like, they maybe. If everything goes their way, they might grab that 8th playoff spot, maybe.
Yeah.
That was like the dream season for them. And it's just, here they are, one series away from playing for the freaking Stanley Cup.
Look, here's my take on it. And it's summed up by friend of the show, McCarthy, who said, you Vegas fans, you've been waiting for this since 2017, and you lost that one game back in March. You deserve this.
Like, to answer your question, Greg, I think it's one of those things where when you see it all on paper and you're not exactly sure, like, how you're going to, like, line it up on the ice, it's hard to tell. Because it's just this amalgamation of players, and it's at the time it's 30 players plus, with the trades they had. So that's well more than your roster size of 23. So you have no idea how these things are gonna line up. When you get them like in practice, in a game, that sort of thing.
Also, you have to understand that Fleury's last, hurrah with the Penguins was surprising because he had deteriorated significantly. So I don't think anyone was expecting him to keep that up like for a full season.
Yeah, I get all that, but my point is that this is an expansion team. And I don't care if you're the most eternal optimist in the world, no one in their right mind thought this could happen.
Not. Of course not.
Look.
But like as we kind of went back and forth, the more you think about it, the more it starts to make sense. Where it's, on paper, it's an expansion team. It's a bunch of misfits. It's guys that these teams, in theory, don't want. So you get rid of them. And so you say, well, this team's going to be garbage. It's a bunch of nobodies thrown together. Who cares? But then you start to realize, well, some of them are nobodies, but some of them are also guys that, they traded for salary dumps. Guys that there's some teams like, say, Columbus, like Anaheim, where, there's all these good players that are available, but teams made trades with them to say, hey, we'll give you this guy who's actually okay if you take our crappy player off our hands, so you don't select, the other good players that we have available. So, like, if the Ducks didn't make a deal with Vegas, they could have taken Josh Manson or Sammy Vatanen, but instead they said, here, we're going to give you Shea Theodore, but please take Clayton Stoner off our hands. So you get some good players that way. But the other thing is, or Pittsburgh made a deal to say, hey, please take Marc-Andre Fleury, because now they have Matt Murray, and here's a guy that a two-time Stanley Cup champion goaltender is basically placed at their feet. For the rest of the lineup, you're taking most teams that are exposing guys, they're exposing guys that are second or third liners, or second pairing defensemen, and you basically get the same level of player across the board. And I think we've explained this here before, but when you put everything together, every line is essentially the same. And it's this old hockey cliche that all the coaches say, well, we just want to get we had 4 lines rolling, we want to get all 4 lines going. So that way you don't have to think about ice time. You don't have to get guys tired. You're not throwing guys out there for matchups. You're not worrying too much about really anything. And with Vegas, because all these lines play the same style, the same way, they're all about the same level of effectiveness, you roll your guys through. They're not tired. Sure, you might not match up all the way with the first line, but you can play with the second line, you can beat the third line, and you can run circles around the fourth line.
Yeah.
And then just over the course of 60 minutes of a game, over the course of 82 games in a season, 7 games in a series, the chances add up, and you're going to end up on the right side of it because
you're basically, all you got to do is hang with the first line of the other team, and you'll be okay.
If you do well enough to shut down what the other team's trying to do, you'll win out your games. And you saw that, like with the Kings, they could beat them in every opportunity, so they sweep them. With the Sharks are still a good team, and so the Sharks can get a couple here and there and find the right side of it. But at the end of the day, the Vegas is going to win out. Now, when they go against Winnipeg, when they go against Nashville, those are 2 teams that are deep. Nashville's very deep. Winnipeg's very deep. Pittsburgh's deep. Tampa's deep. That's how you succeed in the NHL today, is by having a deep lineup.
Yeah.
And Vegas has that. Maybe they don't have the top end talent that some of these teams do, and maybe that will be their ultimate undoing. But it's good enough to hang with everybody and really just kind of catch the whole league by surprise. And then you add in the nobody believes in us factor and all this sort of
which is bullshit, by the way. Look.
Well, is it though?
That Zach? No, it is. Yeah, because
you need something to get the guys motivated, and that sure as hell seems to have done it.
I mean, it gets people motivated, but it's not based on anything factual, because you had players. Well, no, you had players that Vegas took, who Vegas took, who people say, the team didn't protect this guy, they must not have wanted him. No, the NHL forced them to the majority of the rosters.
But that's beside the point. In the locker room, it's it's like nobody believes in us. We're a bunch of misfits, and and everybody's like, yeah, let's go. And
I mean,
but what Mike's saying is the other half of this. Like, they pick those players, but if you go look at every other expansion rule set of the players that had to be protected, no other team got the advantages that Vegas did. And to Vegas's credit, They took advantage of the rules presented in front of them. They took advantage of the situation. They're also the first, as somebody else, I think it was McCarthy pointed out, they're the first expansion team in the salary cap era. So they can get some of these players that are essentially salary dumps.
Right.
Whereas in the past, you just protect all these guys.
Yeah.
Or some teams are hampered by no move clauses, so guys can't be you have to protect, like the Ducks had to protect Kevin Bieksa. If the Ducks could have let Kevin Bieksa loose last year, they totally would have, but they couldn't. So it's the circumstances were advantageous, and sure as hell Vegas has done the best with it. But
I just look at it, and it's like, did your Anaheim Ducks, Zach, were they allowed to build a roster of this quality when they entered the league?
The Ducks actually finished in 9th place in the West, but they were also like 17 points out of a playoff spot. So they weren't terrible.
Greg, were your Columbus Blue Jackets afforded the opportunity to create a team of this caliber for their first season?
I think all you have to do is look at their record in the first few years, and you're going to get a pretty definitive answer.
Rick Nash and a bunch of guys.
Rick Nash, Steve Mason, and a bunch of fucking guys you've never heard of.
Yeah, and like the Ducks, yes, they made the playoffs in their 3rd year, and I think in like their 6th or 7th.
Oh, and Derek Sanderson, how can I forget him?
Right. But, like, you might have some early success, but you're not going to be a winner. I think the only team that stands out among all the post-90s expansion teams are the Florida Panthers, who went to the Cup final in their 3rd year or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And that was incredible. But that was still the 3rd year of their existence. That wasn't their expansion roster. They had time to put things together, and that's the difference between Vegas and all the other teams too, and why we've come to kind of hate Vegas.
Well, see, that's okay.
We put the blood, the sweat, and the tears into this stuff over years and dealt with the ups and downs. Vegas just kind of got a set of chia seeds, poured some water on it, and now they're in the conference final.
Well, okay, but here's the thing, and this is where I said I was going to play the role of a Vegas, I guess, supporter tonight or advocate. Can you really blame them for? I mean, it's not their fault. That this, it's, like, you can't go, well, we should have put together a shittier team.
Well, no, of course not. I get that, but it's a product of what was placed before them, and it sucks.
But
it sucks.
Couldn't they just as easily have screwed this up too? I mean, let's replace Vegas with the front office of the Cleveland Browns. None of this happens.
I mean, okay, well, that's unfair because, as Zach said, the Cleveland Browns are the dumbest team to ever exist in the history of pro sports.
Right, that's what I mean. You could give the Browns,
they're not they're an aberration.
I don't know. The Clippers would say otherwise, but and so would the 70s Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I get your point.
My point is they could have easily screwed this up, but at the same time but at the same time, it would have been consistent. It would have been harder to screw it up than it would have been to make it work.
Yeah. I think the other thing is, as opposed to other expansion teams, everyone acknowledged that this team wasn't going to be nearly as bad as other expansion teams. Like, they were going to be okay. Or at least a lot of people thought that they were going to be okay. Maybe at their best, they could compete for a playoff spot.
Right.
But it's the fact that nothing has gone wrong for them. Every single thing they've done has worked. Everything they've done has turned right side up. Even they've only faced one little bit of adversity really all season, and that was when their goaltenders went down. And even then, when they're on their 4th string goalie and they call up a kid from juniors of all places to be their emergency goaltender, they still were winning, and it wasn't like they were doing everything they could to make sure this kid won. No, they were just playing their game, and they still were winning easily. And so now you get into the playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights have now played 10 playoff games in their history, and they're 8-2. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And to the fans of expansion teams from this era, of a fan from the cup-starved Toronto Maple Leafs, to see a team just plop up out of fucking nothing,
it's enraging,
and be a cup contender. Yeah, it's enraging Because we put in work and effort, and we sit here and we toil, and like the Ducks, we just bang our head against the wall year after year after year. And here's Vegas, just here we're out of nowhere.
My team had to claw back from a 3-1 deficit to get to a Game 7 that they blew a third period lead in. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like
and I've had seasons.
The NHL
like
is a hard league. The NHL is hard. The Stanley Cup
and people saying like, "Oh, you're jealous, or you've got sour grapes." Yeah, guess what? I do, because this is fucking bullshit.
Well, see, I think that there's an element of it. First off, I think that they've this has ruined expansion teams in all sports. This has absolutely ruined it, because now everyone's going to want this, and it's blown that out of the water. So that from that aspect, but to me, there's a certain element of it that's actually kind of like, I don't know. I guess it's cool in a way, but it's like, geez, this is like no one ever thought in a million years, especially when you grew up in the era that I did, where expansion teams were just god awful. I'm talking like just ridiculously bad, because everything was stacked against them. To see this happen in my lifetime and going, this was like inconceivable to me. Yeah, to see a team do this.
Now you're in a spot where just because you've paid your money to be in the league does not mean you automatically get to contend with the rest of the league. Like, paying your money is the only thing it should do is grant you a franchise, grant you the base level of a franchise. You get players to work with, and then it's what you do with those things to then build yourself into a contending team, into a valuable franchise. Just paying your money does not equal being a valuable member of the society.
In their defense, are they saying like that we've worked hard for this and that
the fans are?
That's simply not true. It's just simply not true.
Right, and that's the thing that also comes with it is the fans have already gotten so far up their asses that this is deserved, that it's destined, that they're the greatest thing to ever happen ever. Based on this run that they're on.
That's what I mean. What are they? Why is it deserved? Why?
Because
you weren't some long-suffering hockey market that didn't have a team. You weren't Winnipeg without the Jets. You weren't.
No, but it's not
Quebec
that. What they're saying
without
is that,
the Nordiques. I mean, come on, give me a break.
When the idea that they're putting forward, and I've seen this from like their prominent bloggers, is that when people were saying, "Well, give Vegas a team," everybody is like, "No, Vegas doesn't need a team. Vegas doesn't deserve a hockey team. I
still don't think they do."
Right, but it's that attitude that's, you don't think we deserve a hockey team? Look how good the one we have is.
Yeah, well, wait in 2 years when you win 20 games and you're out of the playoffs by 45 points, and then we'll talk.
The point is there too, but like when they say that we deserve it because look at this, they didn't do anything for this. It was just given to them. And the fans are sitting there just they didn't have to drool over all these terrible losses or heartbreaks or anything. They just got put right at the top from day
Zach,
one.
wait a minute. Now, come on. They've lost twice in the playoffs. They've had some tough times.
Yes, they lost once in double overtime.
Come on now. Let's be fair.
Yeah. No.
They had to score 3 goals in the third period against the Kings once.
What's enraging about all of this is, and what sets a dangerous precedent is what Zach had said, and kind of what we've seen now, where the NHL wasn't going to grant these expansion terms to Seattle, but then Seattle went, "Oh, hey, we're paying more than Vegas. Well, then we want the same expansion terms," and the NHL is caving. They're going to give it to them. So now we've got to ask them, like, is this essentially going to be the case where if you have enough money, you can just buy an NHL caliber franchise?
Well, that's the problem. That's what you run into, is because for a number of reasons. First off, now you've had one, which I still think is a bad idea, market that you've expanded into that's been remarkably successful. So now Seattle comes along and with a legitimate argument, and that we paid more, we should get the same rules. So now what you're going to get another market that's probably another bad idea that's going to be successful again. And you know what that means? Well, geez, if it worked in Seattle and it worked in Las Vegas, where else can it work? And the next thing you know, we're looking at a 45-team league.
God. Yeah, like that's where that needs to be nipped in the bud. And like,
hey, look, if there's a 45 team NHL, I might have to seriously reconsider my hockey prospects because I think I'm viable at that point.
Yeah.
Well, there'd be 45 teams.
Dude, I'm lacing some skates up if we get to 45 teams here. Come on.
There'd be 45 teams and still no Nordiques.
Right, that too.
But this sort of thing is so purely NHL, though, right? Mm-hmm. This wouldn't happen in Major League Baseball.
No.
This wouldn't happen in the NBA.
No.
This wouldn't happen in the NFL.
No.
This is something that's so purely like I think I said this here once, but I know I put it in the thread a couple times now, where it's we have the concept of only in the goddamn NHL does X happen, and that's usually just something horrible that happens to your team, or usually it's something that we get laughed at as fans, or your team gets laughed at,
or the league does something stupid.
Yes.
Generally speaking, yeah,
right. Vegas hasn't had one of those moments yet because they are that moment. The whole franchise. Existence. Yes. Only in the goddamn NHL could you have an expansion team waltz in here and be within spitting distance of the hardest trophy to win in professional North American sport.
And here's the thing that I was going to say, and I kind of half believe this, but you know what? I think that there's a better than average chance they actually win the whole fucking thing. Just because it's,
right?
It's just because it's been that kind of year where it's just like you keep waiting for the law of big numbers to finally come crashing down on them and go, look, this does not happen to you, except it keeps happening. And you go, you know what? They're going to run it all the way. They're going to punch that ticket. They're going to run it.
Is team justice. I have to
They
believe,
may very
Greg.
well be, but I'm just saying.
I sent you guys the Princess Leia gif. I mean, that sends it all. Come on.
But here's the thing. If I told you back in January, I think Vegas is going to win the cup, you would have laughed me out of the room. But now you're looking at it going, God, I hope he's wrong. You know?
And I mean, there's, God damn it. I so want Winnipeg I so want, like, it would be so, it would be karma. Like, come on. Let's end this farce with, like, Bettman's greatest Sunbelt failure. Come on.
And again, this would be completely different, I think, if they were, if the preseason greatest expectation for them came true, where they had squeaked into the playoffs as like a 7 or 8 seed, right? And then they upset a couple people, and now they're on a Cinderella run.
That would be, I think that would be more palatable to people, sure.
And one of the things that just drove me up a wall when they beat San Jose, the Vegas Twitter account said the shoe still fits, or the slipper still fits, and it's like, you lost the right to the Cinderella claim months ago. You are not that anymore. You were the division champion.
You lost the Cinderella claim when the league put a gun to the head of 30 NHL GMs and said, let Vegas have your 6th best player.
No, I think that they still could have had, like, early in the season, it was a great story where it's like, wow, look at them, they're winning. But we still said, okay, this is fun and cute, but they'll come back to the mean, and, well, maybe they'll make the playoffs now. That's fun. But the fact that it kept going and hasn't even close to dipping,
what I'm saying.
That's where people are like, this is asinine.
That's
like, it's fine if they win a few and they're cute and they're around and they're give them a good pat on the head and, hey, you did a good job, see you next year. But the fact that they might just win this whole stupid tournament is what throws this whole thing out of whack and pisses off me,
that's what I'm talking about.
Everybody else.
You keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it's just not dropping. I'm sorry, I didn't expect this, but my Cavaliers are just kicking the shit out of your Raptors.
I don't fucking know, man. Like,
I don't get it either. What is it with that team?
I'm just watching. I get weirdly impassioned with, like, not the NBA, but, like, the Raptors when I watch them, because I was just like, you're losing. A fucking Cleveland could barely beat the goddamn Pacers. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. And oh my God, I think it was game 2. LeBron was just out there fucking with you guys. It was just like, let me try this. Oh, that one in. Oh, I'm going to like stand on one foot with my back to the basket, throw it over my shoulder, nothing but net. It was just ridiculous.
It's kind of like rooting for the Washington Generals in a Harlem Globetrotters game, where it's like, he's on a ladder. Come on.
Yeah. You've seen How I Met Your Mother, right, Mike?
Yes.
Oh yeah, well,
He's a Washington Generals fan.
Yeah. I would love to watch.
See Vegas Golden Knights. That's how it happens. You're supposed to be the Washington Generals, and then eventually you get through.
I would love a legitimate Washington Generals jersey. That would be awesome. Come on. But yeah, I don't know what's going on here, Mike. I mean, I did not, we all saw them against Indiana. We saw them like fumble their way through the regular season, and all of a sudden, well, I can tell you what it is. It's LeBron. And the Raptors, it's kind of like it's almost like a Capitals thing. Like they see LeBron and they go, "Oh my God!" And I don't know, because you guys were the number 1 seed in the East, weren't you?
Yeah. We were. Like, I got to the point where I'm like yelling at the TV, like, fucking step on his collarbone. Come on.
But I mean, just the way he abused them in game 2, I was like, oh my God. It was just, he was just firing off these shots. Like, it was just like, let me try this and see if it goes.
Look, the Golden State Warriors have a hell of a basketball team top to bottom, but I still think LeBron James is like the single greatest player alive today.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
No, you know what? I seeing him do what he's done in this series, I know the talk has been ramped up, but I'm firmly in the camp that yes, Michael Jordan, was always the undisputed greatest of all time. I think LeBron's better than Jordan.
I'm going to tell you, having seen them both play, and I don't know that I would have even said this 2 years ago, but after what he did against the Warriors that year that the Cavs won it all. And and seeing and let's be honest about it. People say, well, Jordan, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't all by himself. That was a damn good Bulls team, those 6 championship teams. There were a lot. I mean, Scottie Pippen. LeBron he had it with the Heat. Okay. But, he had Rodman, he had Pippen. There were a lot of good supporting players on those teams. I think I'm with you. I think LeBron is, I don't know if necessarily better, but you couldn't convince me that he's not at this point.
Well, I think I used a comparison the other day, which would appeal to you because we've used it on this podcast before, Greg. Remember after when the talk about Tom Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time, right? Eventually we got to a point where it's okay. It's either him or Joe Montana. And the argument that you always bring up, or a lot of, the people that are on Joe Montana's side, is that, well, Joe Montana was, 3-0, 4-0 in Super Bowls?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, and won all the MVPs, and he never lost. But it's like, okay, so Tom Brady's lost a Super Bowl, but he's also been to,
13.
6. Yeah. Right. And so it's like, is it better or worse to keep getting to them and losing, or to not have lost any but only been to 3?
I don't know. I think
but that's the argument with LeBron, where it's Jordan is 6 for 6 with 5 MVPs, but LeBron's 2 and 5, 3 and 5 in the finals or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. But I will say this too: the quality of teams that Jordan had to play aren't as good as the teams that LeBron's had to get through. And just for the Montana and Brady argument, my argument's always been that the defensive rules were a lot tougher for Montana than they are for Brady, and that's the key difference to me. And that's not to say that Brady's not a great quarterback; he absolutely is. But when you're getting to the LeBron, MJ, Brady, Montana level of who's better, I mean, you're talking millimeters. You're not talking big gaps and differences, But I'm with you, Zach. I think that it's a tough argument to make, and like I said, I've been here for both of these guys, and what I've seen LeBron do. And Jordan could do the same thing, but LeBron it seems like he has to work harder to get to the same places that Jordan got to easier. And I don't mean it because Jordan was better, just that no one's going to mistake the Utah Jazz or the Portland Trailblazers that MJ beat in the finals for that Warriors team that LeBron took, a Cavaliers team that had no business beating them after being down 3-1 and beat them. That Warrior, that was the record-breaking Warriors team, right? The 73 and 90.
It was, yes.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Jordan never did that. He went 72 and 10, and they won the title. But that's the difference to me. Is LeBron beat the best Jordan team, basically.
I'm going to say that while Michael Jordan had a tremendous supporting cast, I do believe. And I was young when Michael Jordan was doing his thing, but I seem to remember he could dominate on his own when he had to.
Absolutely. I think that it's tough to say. I mean, Jordan, God.
The other thing is that they're both different styles of players.
Different styles of players,
too.
yeah. I mean, basically what you've got with LeBron is you've taken Jordan and crossed him with Magic Johnson, and that's the guy you ended up with. You know? Jordan was a pure guard, and my God, I mean, like I said, I could sit here and argue that LeBron's better and then turn around and give you 20 minutes of why Michael was better. They were both. The only thing I can say about it, I'm just going to leave my input on it at this. I was lucky enough to see both of them play, and that's good enough for me. But
here's an interesting thought. Could Michael Jordan have taken the 07 Cavs to the finals in the same way that
because he didn't. Very similar thing, but this was like at the tail end. Michael started his ascension at the tail end of the Lakers Celtics thing in the 80s. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't get past like the Hawks or some of the other better teams in the East until, he got Scottie Pippen basically. LeBron, I don't even know who was on that. What was it? 05 or 07 Cavs team?
07.
It was LeBron. 07. I think 74-year-old Shaq might have been on that team. I don't remember. But then you had guys like I was going to say Dwight Gooden, but Drew Gooden. Okay.
I mean, you say 74-year-old Shaq, but they did get beat by 85-year-old Tim Duncan. So. Yeah.
Well, Duncan was only like 62 at that point, though. He wasn't 85 yet. But it's a fun debate, and I think you got a great point, Zach. It's hard for me to say that LeBron isn't, that he might be better.
Yeah.
I think you just got to look at what you're looking for.
The argument gets closer and closer as time goes by.
Right,
is essentially the thing. Like when people were trying to have this argument, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
No,
it's harder to say. But now that as time's gone on, and it's just so clear how good LeBron truly is, you can't have that fight anymore. Like you can either say that they're both two of the best of all time, but it's hard to like pick one over the other at this point, at least cleanly.
I mean, I guess what I would concede is that you can no longer say that Michael is definitively better than LeBron, because I think that LeBron, what LeBron lacks, I think, is that just crazy competitive fire that pushed Michael Jordan. He just simply wouldn't accept losing. Whereas LeBron, I think he's got some of that, but not all of it. But LeBron, better passer, better rebounder. I don't know about defense. MJ was a pretty solid defender when he wanted to be.
Okay, just a slight break to remind everyone that Penguins Capitals is going into overtime.
Yep.
So we are on track for a Penguins victory followed by a 2-0 win in Game 7 for the Penguins. So we're all on schedule. Just wanted to let everyone know that.
I believe in you, Caps.
Speaking of the NBA, did Philadelphia get their signature "what's the fuck's the point" win over the Celtics in the earlier game? Anybody know?
Yes.
They were all fired up in Philly about that. And I thought, you're down 3-0.
I believe they did.
This is great and all, and have fun, but it's kind of mean.
Trust the process? ?
Hey, well, you know what though? I mean, maybe there's something to that, because that Philly team looks pretty good. I mean, now granted they're going to lose to Boston, but they're not bad.
I mean, they got the losing to acquire draft picks thing down, but they had to fire the guy to bring in someone else to actually put the pieces together. So
maybe that's what the Browns need to do.
The Sixers did get that win, so Boston still leads 3-1, and Cleveland looks like they're going to be up going into halftime in Cleveland.
Yeah, I blame I blame this more on Toronto. I don't know what happened to the Raptors. I was reading an article about it on The Ringer. What was like, they were just talking about how the Raptors just like fold up the tents. I don't even get it.
I don't know.
They won 59 games this year, and they're playing like they're the 8th seed playing like a 70-win Cleveland team here, and that's just not the case. And they've got good players.
I don't know. Like, usually, like, you expect like a team to fold later in a season. They just, like, from game one, they're just like, I guess we'll lose to Cleveland now.
Yeah, it was like the minute they saw they were playing the Cavs, they said, well, that's that. And like I said, man, in game 2, LeBron he was just toying with you guys. He was just having fun. Like, I'm going to try crazy shots. They're all going to go, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's exactly what happened. You know what the solution is, Mike? They got to go to those blue and white uniforms you've been talking about, the Raptors.
Come on, Toronto Huskies. Let's do it.
Fixes everything, man.
So apparently, and I don't know how much truth there is to this, a friend of mine from Canada told me that apparently the Raptors were like incredibly close to becoming the Huskies until Drake convinced them to be the Raptors.
Oh.
So apparently Drake likes the Raptors. So
well, the Raptors, that's got to be one of the more dated names in pretty much ever now at this point, right?
But they keep making Jurassic Park movies, so it's still relevant.
Yeah. Well, it kind of works for them now. You can't really think of them as anything else at this point. It's
right.
It's burnt in, but I just don't know why they disappear like this in the playoffs because they're not a bad team,
I don't know.
I mean, the Cavs were stomping the daylights out of them in Game 3, and then they get it all the way back, and LeBron comes down and says, "No, sorry," makes some stupid one-handed bank shot off the glass, and I'm going, Jesus, this guy's just amazing. I don't know. It's all for naught because they're going to end up whoever gets past whoever wins the East is going to get their brains kicked in by the Warriors anyway. But still, I don't know. Yeah. Well, we got a good night of sports going on here. I got the Cavs coming up. Got my Winnipeg Jets and the Purds here in a little bit. Hey, I just want to say really quick, Zach, before I forget, Albert Pujols, 3,000 hits. That was cool.
Yeah, pretty neat.
Also home runs,
an unremarkable hit, but yeah, he's only one of 5 guys with 3,000 hits and 600 homers.
4,
yeah.
Willie
Mays,
that's also Hank Aaron.
Easy Hall of Famer, first ballot.
Absolutely, but yeah,
get out of here.
Mays, Aaron, and then if you want to count A-Rod, although I don't because of the PEDs, and Albert, and that's it.
Before we go, Zach's tab.
Oh, hey, okay.
Zach's tab.
And this is in the traditional sense of a Zach's tab.
Okay.
I was sent this again just to give some credit. Shout out to my girlfriend who sent me a DM on Twitter with this link and the hashtag Zach's tabs.
Okay.
High school poop bandit.
Oh God!
Turns out to be blank. So I'm gonna fill you in with some details, and I'm gonna let you guess who the culprit was at the end of this.
Okay.
New Jersey, high school track and field stadium. The track for a few weeks, I think 2 weeks. They said a couple weeks. There had been daily occurrences of the track and field coaches when they arrived to school in the morning finding human feces on the track or in the stadium at the school. So this has been happening a couple weeks, every day. Who do you think the poop bandit at this New Jersey high school was?
Well, I'm going to say, since it was in New Jersey, I'm going to just go off the board here and say Chris Christie, the former governor.
I am going to say,
I'm going to go with a teacher.
I'm going to say, going off some of our past conversations on the show, it's the football coach, because you have to be a bit crazy to be a football coach in the first place.
Right.
It was the district superintendent.
Wow.
What?
The superintendent of the school district has been charged with urination/defecation, dumping litter, and lewdness for near daily pooping at the high school.
So what, he was just going to the track and field stadium and just pooping anywhere? In the open?
Wow. Well, okay. Come on now. A little bit of this is fascinating, because don't you just go, how did that thought process start where he ended up doing that?
It's absolutely fascinating. Right? I want to know more. I want to know what drove this man.
What chain of events led you to think that was the best use of your time at that particular moment? That's what I want to know. That's the first thing I think of when I hear something like that. Every single time. It just blows my mind. It's like, what? I would never wake up and go, what am I going to do today? Well, I know. That would never even occur to me. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Was he making a statement? Was he mad at someone or?
No. As far as I can tell, these are all articles from the time, so I don't know if his motive has come out since. But I mean, I don't know. I understand, like, when you're driving home, it's like, crap, I really gotta shit right now, and I'm not gonna make it home.
Every day.
Maybe it's just a thing.
Maybe it's just his route, and The timing just always worked out. I don't know.
Yeah, well, one thing, he's regular, if nothing else, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's important. You want to be healthy.
Exactly.
Incidents would occur in the early morning hours when the superintendent would run at the track, police said.
Well, now that's starting to make a little more sense. Okay.
So he would just have an early morning run at the high school track and decided that he needed to not go to the bathrooms that are at the stadium.
Oh, well, okay. Now it's getting weird again.
It's a stadium.
But they were probably locked. The bathroom.
But he has the key to the stadium.
We think.
He's the superintendent. He's got the keys to everything.
You know what? I honestly, this is, believe it or not, see, this is the thing, listeners. This is the beauty of this show. Somewhere along the way, we're going to know someone that could actually answer this. And I actually happen to know that when I used to do the high school football games, there were only 2 people that had keys to get into the press box, and the superintendent wasn't either one of them. It was the athletic director and one of the janitor guys, and that was it. No one else could get into that place. So he was
42-year-old man, Thomas Tramgliani or Tramglini. I don't know.
Well, now with that information Greg has provided, it gets interesting again.
Yeah, now it gets interesting again.
Yeah, I don't know who could have done it.
So was it like right on the track or just,
It was on the track or near the track.
That's just like, that sounds to me like he's making some sort of a statement of some sort. But, I've heard stories that there are people that are just into doing things like that they just, I don't know why. And I think the good Lord above that I'm not one of them, but between that and some of the things I see like in public bathrooms where I just go, all right, that wasn't an accident. You know what I mean? But wow. So are they going to charge him or what's the story? I mean, he got charged. He got charged. Well, he got
charged with public defecation, littering.
Well, how'd they catch him? How did they catch him?
I'm going to say sting operation.
Probably not what those guys signed up for when they went to detective school.
He was caught in the act after surveillance was set up.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, God.
He was running on the fields at 5:50 a.m. before he was arrested. See, that's the thing, too. 5:50 in the morning? Like, that's not that terribly early for someone to start setting up a school.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you would think somebody would have seen him before then.
It would depend on where the track is in relation to the school. Like, not necessarily.
Yeah, he's taking a paid leave of absence, not unpaid.
Oh, paid. Okay, that good for him, I suppose.
How much?
Oh, go ahead.
How much money do you think this guy makes a year that he needs to poop on the high school track?
Oh, he's New Jersey superintendent, or would you say assistant or district?
Superintendent.
District superintendent?
Yes.
And he's probably in the I'd say $150 a year,
easily.
Somewhere like that.
Six figures easily, yeah.
Yeah, $147,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, at age 42, that's not bad, man.
No, not at all.
So was it the same spot every day, or did he just?
This does not say that.
See, they never give you the important details in this stuff. We can't do much detective work. We can't figure out if he's insane or just had to go. I mean, if it's the same spot every day, he's making a statement, I think.
He lives 3 miles from the school.
All right. Well, I think he just gets off on it. Sounds like to me, probably.
Yeah, entirely possible.
But yeah, you're right. That's a Zach tab in the classic tradition of Zach's tabs. That's how we like to end the show every week. So on that note, I guess we'll call it a night, huh?
Yeah.
I think I know a glorious tournament of victory entry.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So, all right, folks, on that note, we are going to call it a night. You can subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and the YouTubes. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports, and you can find us on Facebook. With that, try to find a bathroom, okay? We'll see you next time.
All right.